Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bachi podcast. We have a huge show for you. We're going to recap college football week one, NFL week one preview, and we're going to talk a little fantasy football, etc. Stay tuned. We have a huge show for you, and it starts right now. Davis, welcome back to the Bachi Boys podcast. We have a huge show for the people today. I'm sorry we didn't put out a show at the end of last week. We got a little busy, but it's okay. We have a lot of college football to discuss. We have football in the past tense to discuss, Davis. Things that have already happened, a lot to get to. I think that you're muted. Just want to throw that out there. But also, let's get to the big games, Davis, because I'm as hyped as you are to discuss this. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of college football that happened this weekend. It was a blast to have it back. It's just waking up on Saturday morning and turning on game day at 9:00. It's just, honestly, highlights of the year. It's so fun
100%.
watching those guys and getting all nervous but excited at the same time for the Penn State game, getting ready for Clemson, Georgia. I mean, there were some awesome games this weekend, and let's get right into it.
Yeah, so let's start with Penn State, just because we're both Penn State guys, Davis, and let's get the easy one out of the way with them in West Virginia. How'd you feel about Drew Aller leaving that game?
I thought he made all the right decisions.
I did too.
He definitely had his first two throws of the game were both incompletions, and one of them did not look pretty, and it definitely got the worries up a little bit. But then he showed himself out. I mean, he ended up going 11 for 17. He didn't really have to do too much. He had a big play at the end of the half to turn it into a 2-possession game going into the 2.5-hour lightning delay, really, that they had in Morgantown. He played fantastic. I would say the defense is the ones that they get the gold stars, in my opinion. They really, really shut down this West Virginia offense, the hype coming into the year and this game. I think a 34-12 victory is all I ask for as a Penn State fan.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you kind of already touched on this, but that Drew Aller touchdown to Harrison Wallace to end the half, the back shoulder fade, my God, that was such a pretty ball. And he really did make all the right throws. And, they weren't all beautiful Patrick Mahomes, but he made the right decision at the right time, and he got the team in the right position at the right time to win the game. And, it helps when Nicholas Singleton rips off a big run like that to, put the dagger in him. But, I feel really good about Penn State's chances heading into, a tough schedule this year. They don't have Michigan, but it's still tough nonetheless, especially after teams like USC, which we'll get to, played well. Let's get to another. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
10-2, 10-2 this year. I know that's Penn State's motto the last few years, but 10-2 this year gets us into the playoff. We have coming a 4 or 5 week stretch where and I hate to say it because we've seen it all the time, but we have a pretty easy schedule. We play Bowling Green, we play Kent State, and we get a bye week, and then we're home against Illinois and UCLA before we head off to USC. These should be 4 winnable games here. I don't see any of these being somewhat close, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Penn State should be taking care of business, but this was somewhat of a tough challenge kind of to start the year, and they handled it as they should. On to another team that handled the challenge as they should. The Georgia Bulldogs steamrolled the Clemson Tigers. We'll get to it in a minute, but I kind of called this. But how are we feeling about the Georgia Bulldogs, dude?
Yeah, I think it's partially the Georgia Bulldogs, but it's also Clemson. This I think is the beginning of the downfall of Dabo Swinney. If anybody listened to I don't know if it was our last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, we went into some college football previews. I talked about how Dabo Swinney has not used the transfer portal. He doesn't have a single starter ever that has come from the transfer portal since this whole operation opened about 4 or 5 years ago. Honestly, I was also kind of expecting Georgia to roll over Clemson. One of my favorite bets of the entire weekend that I did not put on would have been Clemson under 17.5 points. I found there to be zero chance for Clemson to pull off, anything
Didn't
over
even score a
17 points.
touchdown.
They didn't even score a touchdown. The Bulldogs roll over them, and I think we're in the middle of a dynasty in college football. You have to embrace it a little bit, but you hate to see it.
I mean, I completely agree. I don't know if Clemson, should be putting Dabo in the hot seat quite yet. They've been struggling since Trevor Lawrence left. Their two quarterbacks are Cade Klubnik and DJU, and you kind of see how those two are panning out in their college career. So I don't know. The Clemson won 10 games last year. If they had a better quarterback, who knows? But it's tough because this is the year, you're right, where Dabo, he shouldn't be making any more excuses. Florida State's weak in the ACC, and there's only going to be a couple games that really matter. And I don't think this will really hurt their chances in the ACC, but geez, it's tough. Speaking of another ACC team, Miami, the U,
They're
they
back.
ran over the Gators in the swamp, Davis, in the swamp. I think a lot of people felt that Miami might do this, but they went into an SEC building and kicked an SEC team's ass. How should we be feeling about the Hurricanes?
Again, if you listened to our podcast about 2 weeks ago, you would have heard one of my favorite bets being the U being ACC regulars, ACC conference champions. That was plus 450. That number is long gone. I almost want to quote myself in saying I didn't think that number was ever going to touch 450 again. They're down to plus 170 after a few ACC debacles the last 10 days or so. I think this Miami team I think Cam Ward might be a top 3 quarterback in all of college football. I think he's the best transfer of the entire offseason. This Miami team is going to be a lot of fun. And with their schedule, they can definitely go 11-1. Their toughest game on the schedule is home against Florida State. As how Florida State's been looking, that, we could be seeing madness here in the ACC with Miami doing something real special.
Yeah, I agree. There was a video that I think me and you talked about that went viral on TikTok, and it was literally like, Cam Ward is the most relaxed. I forget what the word they used. It was like
nonchalant.
Nonchalant. That's the good one. Yes, nonchalant quarterback in all of college football. Just casually walking to the side of the line, casually threw an insane touchdown across his body to end the game. The receiver barely caught it in bounds and was one of the most impressive throws I've seen on the run like that. So, the U in that conference, I completely agree. There might be a couple teams sneaking out of the woodwork like Georgia Tech, Louisville, NC State, but the U might be a freight train that can't be stopped. And then, on the Gator side, Billy Napier, Sunbelt Billy might be in trouble. We'll see what happens with the Gators.
He's definitely on the hot seat. Not sure if he makes it to that rough stretch in late October, November that the Gators have, where pretty sure they play 5 straight top 15 teams in the country, something right like that, and it's insane. I think for Florida, it actually might be smart of them if this downward spiral continues to let him go right before that stretch and say, hey, we went 0-5 and didn't get a big upset because we fired our coach. It's kind of a win-win if you do fire him midseason. I would not be surprised if he gets fired before then.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's never a win-win to fire a coach, but in this case, with a team like this, with the prestige like that, you might have to, which is tough because it's man's job. But, is what it is. On to another coach that might be on the hot seat, Mr. Brian Kelly and the Tigers. They lost their 3rd straight season opener in these Sunday standalone games too. The previous 2 to Florida State, and now they fall to the Trojans of USC. We watched this game together, Davis. I'm not gonna raid on your parade and be like I had USC, but Miller Moss looked so good, dude. I mean, especially on that 4th quarter drive to end the game, he looked like the real deal. I was stunned to find out that he's a graduate that's just been sitting there the last couple of years waiting for his turn, and that was really nice of him because he has some talent and he could have been playing somewhere else.
I completely agreed. As you kind of mentioned, and as you'll see right here in our week 1 picks coming up, I was definitely on LSU. I was very confident that this is not USC's year. Was not confident Miller Moss in that bowl game last year where he threw 6 touchdowns was just a fluke and a bowl game. I stand corrected. LSU definitely I don't say this because I lost the bet, and I was rooting for LSU, but LSU had the game. Like they had so many opportunities where they could have
really
just
did.
pulled away and gotten a nice third down conversion. And in the second half specifically, I feel like we were watching the TV and I felt like every 3rd and 7 was a 2-3 yard out route that turned into a 4th and 4 where they had to punt. So I think this
seriously.
LSU team, I've never been a Brian Kelly fan,
Me neither.
but I will say it's week 1. Some teams definitely prove themselves in week 1, but some teams definitely can rebound off of a loss. I think LSU is one of those teams, and I think the next team you're going to talk about is a team that will not rebound from a week 0 and a week 1 loss.
Yeah, let's just get to that. The Florida State Seminoles, the Noles, 0-2 to start the year. Not what some people thought. I know, people weren't the highest on DJU, but losing to Boston College and Georgia Tech to start your year is rough, to say the least. He looked really bad, really, really bad against Boston College. And I mean, I feel like we could wax poetic about how disappointing Florida State is and how bad it is and all this stuff. But I kind of want to take this a different route. I thought Boston College looked frisky as hell. I thought that quarterback Castellanos looked really good. I saw some TikToks before the game being like, his highlights are convincing me he's prime Lamar Jackson from last year. And I was like, whatever. And then he did that in the game. He played his ass off. I saw he had a quote after the game when they were like, what are you going to do with the rest of this week after such a big game? And he's like, I go to Boston College. I'm going to go to class. So, these guys are dedicated. And then speaking of dedicated, they got Billy O'Brien, the former Patriots offensive coordinator, former Penn State head coach back in the day, now at Boston College. How are we feeling about the Golden Eagles?
Yeah, I think Bill O'Brien is one of the most underrated college football coaches in the last 15
Seriously.
years. I would say he probably led Penn State's most successful season in the last 15 years with an 8-4 record in the prime of scandal years that we won't get into. But
Shout out Christian Hackenberg.
That 8-4 season is something that Bill O'Brien will take to his grave. And those players that that was a fully pride. They needed to get themselves back on the map. I'm glad Billy O is back, as mentioned. I think that this Boston College team will play well. I'm not telling you that they're going to win the ACC, but I will tell you that Florida State is not going to win the ACC either.
No.
They're now 0-2 in conference. I apologize to all viewers that unfortunately asked for a show last week and we didn't get one, because you probably would have made a lot of money, because one of my favorite bets of the week would have been Boston College plus 16.5, which never had a chance. I bet that very quickly when that came out, and actually took a little money line, sprinkled some in the first quarter when they went up 7-0, and it was a no sweat. I mean, I didn't even watch a single snap of this game, Ethan, but just looking at the box score throughout the game, you knew it was going to happen. And I was in the midst of texting correspondent Matt Stiers about it, and he was all over. He was the one watching. He was the one giving me feedback, and I was like, "You've sold me. I gotta throw a little coin on this."
Yeah, and they're gonna be a sexy team the rest of the year, because I don't know, this ACC conference might be a little fun to watch. I don't know. There's a couple teams coming out of the woodwork. Who knew Georgia Tech and Boston College are going to be the talking points of the ACC after the first 2 weeks, and not Florida State.
And not only that, the biggest upset of the week came in the AC. Really, the second biggest upset of the week. Virginia Tech goes down in Vanderbilt in overtime. Kyron Drones looked really good, but again, I mean, Ethan, tell me this is not a better start for someone that has Miami to win the ACC, seeing Virginia Tech go 0-1, seeing Florida State go 0-2, and seeing Clemson get absolutely waxed by Georgia.
Pretty good start, because Miami might be head and shoulders above the competition, but we'll see how Cristobal finishes the year. And before we move on to bets and some other things we can clear up, let's talk about a half ACC team in Notre Dame. Big win for the Fighting Irish, going down to Kyle Field and Texas A&M and getting the win. And it was mostly a very, very ugly, sloppy, all the above kind of game. I didn't watch most of it. I caught some of it, but I saw them pull away at the end. They made plays when it counted. Riley Leonard was definitely getting, out coached by his former coach Mike Elko on the A&M sidelines, but Notre Dame pulled out one of their biggest wins in the last 10 years, Davis. Seriously, this means a lot for their program, especially where they can possibly get that number 5 seed if everything goes according to plan this year and have a very good shot to play maybe a group of 5 team in that 11 to 12 seed range. The Irish look really good, and it was a great start for them.
Yeah, again, apologize we didn't have a show. One of my best bets of the week also was Notre Dame money line. I think I talked about that 2 shows ago, but I did watch every snap of this game, and I wish I didn't. This was a very ugly game. Both teams, when it combined 6 for 25 on third down, it was punt after punt after punt.
Yeah.
Texas A&M's quarterback, Charlie Weigman or whatever his name is.
Weigman, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he threw 2 bad interceptions. I'm not going to lie to you. I was really high on him to start the year. This is why I like Notre Dame in this game. Riley Leonard did not look very good.
No.
He only threw for 150 yards. But
I was looking for highlights of him, and I couldn't find any.
Nope. I highly doubt he threw a ball 12 yards down the line. He didn't hit one seam route. They were all screens and all check downs. But,
sounds like
Notre Dame got the win. And, there's some more coin in the FanDuel account.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get to that, Davis, because I think, as you see below, these are my bets. I had Notre Dame. I thought that was an easy money line bet, especially on the road. They were a dog. I get that profit boost as well. Hell yeah, that was easy. But I want to go to the top left, Davis. This is something I alluded to earlier. I thought Georgia was going to kill Clemson, and I put my money where my mouth was. I had Georgia minus 20.5. I had them winning by 3 touchdowns, and they covered that somewhat easily. They won by 31. That was really nice. I had a couple people tell me I was dumb for that, and it felt really good walking up to them later that day on the beach being like, hit that bet today. Just no sweat, just saying. And then I also parlayed Georgia, their actual spread of 12.5 with Penn State's actual spread of 8.5. Covered well. Nice to see that, even after a rain delay. And then Davis, as I mentioned, USC money line. That was nice. That was a really, really fun game. I know we talked about USC winning over LSU, but they had an insane amount of yards of offense in that first half, and it was like 10-7 or something. What classic Sunday standalone game? I love those to start the year. But anything you want to get to on your side?
Yeah, not saying you didn't have any losers. I put up my losers. All right, I had LSU minus 4. Trust me, I did.
I'm sorry.
I didn't have a ton of. I will say I didn't have a ton of losers this weekend. I did have a pretty solid weekend. One of my other bets I didn't have on here that you're gonna find is hilarious. I had Central Michigan plus 17.5 against Wisconsin. That was an absolute no sweat. Central Michigan actually should have won that game. But as you see, Boston College, Notre Dame.
Sweat. They won by 14.
You know what? It may have actually been like 24.5, to be completely honest with you. I'll have to go back.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had that too. Nice.
It may have been like 24.5, but then you go down, you see Georgia, Notre Dame. And just quickly want to touch on it. I also had Nebraska against UTEP. I've seen these stats that teams that have a spread over 27 going into, teams against an FCS team or a group of 5, kind of these cupcake games to start the year, they hit on an absurd rate. We saw Ole Miss do it. We saw Tennessee do it. So I threw a little coin down on Nebraska. The one that I went 1-1 in that aspect. I had Nebraska minus 27.5, but I also had Ohio State minus 48.5.
I had them too. That was tough.
Could not score the ball in the first half very much at all. It was 14-3. It was 14-3 pretty late in the second quarter, but yes, they did not cover the 48.5. But I think I'm going to keep doing it. So if you see those, and don't parlay them, don't tease them, don't put them all on money lines, because you're going to find that one guy that had a 25-leg parlay and then added Florida State at the very bottom, and they lost. So what I would say is just kind of take them straight up. If you bet on 6 of them, you just need 4 of them to hit for you to make money, and the hit rate on that the last few years has been it's putting you in the green.
Yeah, that's why we get Davis here, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to him, because if I hadn't parlayed something this weekend, I would have won some money on it. I had Michigan minus 20.5 in a parlay, and it screwed me because they won by 20. So
yes,
don't parlay; it screws you. Anyway, Davis, Is there anything you want to talk about college football wise before we move on to the pros?
I don't think so. Week 2 coming up. I highly doubt we're going to do another episode. Maybe we'll put some pics out on the Instagram, but I just want to throw it out there right now. I don't even know what the spread is. I think I might put the house on Nebraska against Colorado. Colorado did not look good in their week 1 matchup.
And Dylan Riley looks like Patty Mahomes Jr.?
Yes, we were both on it that North Dakota State was going to cover that game. It fell right in the middle. All the books won. The casual bettors betting Colorado -8.5, as well as North Dakota State money line, because it ended up turning into like a 6-point game, I believe. So
perfect.
I would take Nebraska, and you'll see the account start to blow up a little bit. You can get yourself a little sweet treat with that little.
Everybody loves Deion and the boys. I agree. Take the Cornhuskers. All right, let's go to the pros. It's week 1 of the NFL, Davis. It kind of feels like, now that I'm like really getting into college football now, it kind of feels like the football is back. Cherry is kind of popped, but still, it's the pros. It's the NFL. It's fantasy football season. All these things should get you excited. I had 2 drafts tonight. I know you've had drafts galore, but let's talk about the actual games. Thursday night, Chiefs and Ravens, starting it off. I just want to give you initial reaction. The Chiefs are going for a 3-peat, never been done before, ever in the history of the league. Let's put that out there. I think they have a very good shot at doing it, but will they start 1-0?
It's so interesting. I've been toying on each side of this game. I really don't even know if I can give you a confident pick right now. I keep going back and forth in that, yes, I think the Chiefs are the better team. I think that the Ravens will be a team on the decline this year. There's always a team every single year that declines faster than anybody thinks.
They went to the AFC Championship last year.
I think that's going to be the Ravens this year, but there's also the Super Bowl hangover. We've seen it. We saw it last year. We saw the Detroit Lions go into Arrowhead and take on the Chiefs and start off a great year, of winning the division for the first time and making the NFC Championship game, which they should have won. I'm going to give you a pick right now of Chiefs -3. This number has been teetering between 2.5 and 3. I'd be much more interested in taking it if it was 2.5. But I think I'm going to be on the Chiefs side. Just Arrowhead. I don't think the Ravens' offensive line it's not what it was. Lamar doesn't have as much help. And I think that the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They had Derrick Henry this year. Yes, an aging Derrick Henry who, in my opinion, still could score. I think he still could
put the aging tag on him yet. I know he changed teams.
Correct. I don't think he's going to pop off and rush for 1,300 yards, but I think he can score 15 touchdowns, 100%. I think they're going to use him at the goal line. They're going to use him in packages dedicated to him. But this Chiefs defense is also extremely underrated. Yeah, the Chiefs defense is the reason they went to the Super Bowl last year. It stayed very similar, so I'm going to take the Chiefs -3 here.
Yeah, I don't hate that either. Chiefs all the way. This is the kind of year where I hate the Chiefs and I hate Mahomes because they're just on a historical run, as people should hate them, I guess. But there's going to be a real shot they win the 3-peat. So just let's put that out there. Blaring lights, warning. It's probably going to happen. Okay. All right. So Packers-Eagles, Friday night, Brazil. One of the first weird games of the next era of the NFL where they're doing something in Brazil for God knows what reason. All I've been hearing is crime down there. Still not sure why they want to play football down there because it's not even the football that they play down there. But regardless, Davis, which green team do you like?
I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible. I say this every time I talk about the Eagles. I'm going to take the Eagles -2.5. I need to see it. I need to see it to believe it. For word of love. The man just got paid one of the highest NFL contracts of all time.
I mean, he won a playoff game last year, didn't he?
He had a nice little 9-game stretch. I mean,
did he win a playoff game last year?
Yeah, they crushed the Cowboys.
Yes,
that was a huge game. Yep. Sean Clifford got time at quarterback that game because they actually played so well.
Recently released Sean Clifford.
Correct. I am going to take the Eagles, but can I be biased for a second? Oh man, am I excited about the Eagles this year? Oh my goodness. I just hope their defense, I do, and I think it will be. I think their defense will hold up this year. I am so excited for these new coordinators, Saquon Barkley. Ooh,
yeah, I was gonna say.
I think this Eagles team is gonna be good.
It's gonna be really fun, and I think this is the perfect way to start the year. I think the Packers are a very interesting team that if we're looking at the standings halfway through the year and the Packers are the number 2 seed in the NFC, wouldn't be too surprised. So let's see how the Packers and the Eagles measure up against each other, because the matchup should be interesting.
Agreed.
I really hope the Birds win in Brazil, though. I also smell, I think I said this the other day, I smell this being the kind of game that might linger on both of these teams for the rest of the year, where, like, I don't know, scheduling, injuries, something, maybe the field, I don't know. Something's going to linger and people are going to be like, why did we go to Brazil again? Even though people were saying this before, but just want to throw that out there. I hope nothing happens. But as we're looking at the rest of this week one slate, though, Davis, does any other game pop out to you? Because, I think that Rams-Lions game, obviously that's the Sunday night game, probably game of the week, is probably going to be the best one, but there's a couple tasty options here. Texans, Colts on Sunday at 1. Come on. Those two teams hate each other, and they should be really going at it.
Yeah, they played in week 8, not 17. They played in week 18 last year for either team with a chance to go to the playoffs, and the Texans ended up winning on a Colts dropped pass by a backup running back.
That's right.
In the flat.
That's right.
It's going to be very interesting. This Houston Texans team looks very similar. They added Stephon Diggs. They added some players on the defensive side too.
Changed their uniforms.
They rebranded.
They look awesome.
They do look really good.
Yeah.
I think this Texans team is really good. You'll see my pick on that on the next slide. But Ethan, I agree. I think that Rams-Lions game is going to be awesome. I think that Jets-Niners game is going to be very interesting Monday night too. It's Aaron
Rodgers on Monday Night Football week 1. Have we heard this before?
We have heard this story before. I am very excited to see what happens here, because I think both these teams could go either way. Either team could go 14-3, but also either team could go 8-9
Jets this year. Yeah.
But then we have some stinkers. But you know what, Ethan? When people talk about NFL stinkers, there's always a way to find an edge. We see Vikings Giants down there. The over-under on that, I believe, is sitting around 44.5. That's a blind under bet, without a doubt. I don't see there being 35 points being scored. Caleb Williams, his first game at home against
I think that game might be interesting, actually. I was about to say.
Agreed.
I think the Titans could be frisky.
Agreed. And I think there are some underdogs you can definitely look at with some of these rookie quarterbacks coming in, and some of these younger quarterbacks, and some of these teams that have really moved around. So I can quickly go over to my picks. I don't know if you have anything else in mind, but as mentioned, I like the Texans a lot. I'm going to go -2.5 on them. The line's been moving that way. That game opened up as a pick 'em. What are we doing? How's that? Anyway, the Arizona Cardinals.
It's hatred, division hatred.
Correct. The Arizona Cardinals. They're playing at Buffalo. Don't love taking plus points as a road dog, but I think that this Cardinals team could be better than some people think.
That's what I was going to ask you. Before you talk about this game, the Cardinals, they're in a weird spot. That division is going to be tough this year. I mean, if the Niners don't win it, the Rams will. And I'm not sure what to make of the Seahawks, but the Cardinals could be frisky, man. How do you feel about them? Are they an 8-7 win team? Like, can they beat the Bills week 1? I know you're putting
7 wins. 7 wins is tough. They actually start the year. Their first 6 weeks, they play 6 teams that made the playoffs last year. Their starting regular season wins are going to be very brief if they come. I can definitely see this team starting 1-5. We'll as we do a podcast a week, we'll get down the line, but I think maybe a season win total later on in the year could be interesting. Yeah. But what I will tell you right now, I've never seen a book that has it. I think it would be a very interesting bet. I wouldn't be shocked if the NFC West wins the most games in the NFL for a single division this year. I like the Rams. I like the Seahawks. And I think this Cardinals team might come in last place, but still win 7 games.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, this division could be so weird. I like, maybe the Cardinals make a playoff spot. You never know. Marvin Harrison could be him. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I took him in 2 fantasy leagues. We'll get to fantasy in a second, but I love Marvin this year. And then, Davis, your last thing. I see Travis Kelce anytime touchdown. I kind of love this. I feel like every year I stare at the FanDuel Sportsbook on week 1 because, the Chiefs play every single season opener. And you're like, yeah, Travis Kelce's not going to score week 1. Like, it doesn't work like that. And then he does. I feel like he does it every single time. So I love this.
Yeah, I think honestly, it sounds crazy. Travis Kelce's actually been going under the radar this offseason as a tight end compared to some
fantasy drafts.
100%. Everyone's talking about Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, even Brock Bowers. I think
Yeah.
that Travis
Says you.
Kelce, says me. They've just drafted him like an hour ago, but I think as you said, and look, the Patrick Mahomes knows Travis Kelce. This is week one. I would love to bet on a guy like Xavier Worthy to score a touchdown, but at the same time, I'll take the guy that he's reliable with. Again, I think the Chiefs win the game. So I think, if they're going to win the game, Travis Kelce's got to get one in the end zone, in my opinion, unless Isaiah Pacheco starts going crazy. Correct.
Yeah,
so I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. This is not my parlay. All right. I've been smart.
It kind of looks that way. Yeah.
It does kind of look that way. I don't want it to appear that way, but
we're not
maybe one of our viewers, Ryan Brake will parlay this for us, and we'll see how that ends up.
Shout out Ryan, you deserve that. No, I completely agree with everything you've just said about the Chiefs. They scare the shit out of me this year.
100%.
As they should. Everyone who's listening.
As they should.
Let's get to a variable of teams and players with fantasy, Davis. Let's go through these teams. Davis and I just drafted about an hour ago. Same league, half PPR. I only kept Sam Laporta. Drafted a couple other guys today. I'm feeling confident about my team, but Davis, you kept Saquon, Pacheco, and somebody who's not even pictured. Who was it? Garrett Wilson. I'm sorry.
Garrett Wilson. Yeah.
I was losing my mind. But your team looks really good. How are you feeling about it?
I like it. I typically feel like I come out of drafts thinking that I did not have a great draft. The last few years of fantasy for me have been tough, riddled with injuries, riddled with the waiver wire and picking up no-name guys. I feel like I do pretty well picking up the no-name guys, and that can be a little reliable. Not saying I picked up Puka Nacua last year or anything like that.
I did.
Because I didn't. I didn't. But I went a slightly different route that I usually go. But definitely went with the younger side, especially rookie-wise. You see on here this list. We were able to keep 3 keepers. So technically our first round of drafting is really round 4 for a lot of people. I picked Malik Neighbors. This is also a 12-man league.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Malik Neighbors this year?
I think he's going to be the guy he's going to be the only target on the team. I think this.
Yeah, but who's going to get him the ball?
There's always ways to get people the ball, whether it be on screens, jet touch passes. Seriously, I mean, it's a broken.
You've been playing too much college football, Davis.
100%. I think the Malik Neighbors can definitely. And look, here's the other thing too: the Giants are going to lose a lot. So what are they going to do? Yeah. They're going to throw the ball. So I seriously do think Malik Neighbors, and I'm confident in saying he will be a top 20 wide receiver in fantasy this year. Then you see Brock Bowers on here.
Yeah,
definitely a little more iffy on him. Not sure.
Gardner Minshew / Aiden O'Connell.
I'm not a fan of the tight ends. As you kind of know now, I'm in a separate league where all-time leader in championships in this 30-year league is consistent viewer Steve Olrath. Sex Marauders was his team name. I'm not a tight end fan. I hate tight ends now. The fact that I've been ruined by this league that only does 2 pass catchers. You don't need to put a tight end in. It can just be a wide receiver or a tight end. So I went with a flyer on Brock Bowers. I
don't hate it.
And then down below, you don't see it, but I also picked Xavier Worthy. You never know. Take a flyer. Might be Tyreek Hill.
Exactly. I completely agree. I like that pick. And then on my side, this was tough. I had a really bad roster last year, so only kept a tight end in Sam Laporta, which is the complete reverse strategy of you. I decided to abandon all my strategies because I'm kind of in a rut. I'm in mediocrity in this league, trying to bounce back, and I thought, why not keep the rookie tight end 1 from last year, who's only going to get better. And that also freed me up to get Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr., who I hope I'm not overhyping him. I think he's really good. And I'm envisioning a Justin Jefferson rookie year into maybe a year or 2. I really hope I'm not overblowing him, but I really think that he's going to be a really, really, really good player in this league. And then the running backs are tough. I'm high on Aaron Jones this year, and I think Mixon's consistent, but it's a tough year because picking a guy like Mike Evans, he's a Hall of Famer, first ballot, has all the stats, but he
You're a
never
huge Mike Evans guy. Your middle name is consistency. You
no, I know.
love you love
He's
Mike
not
Evans.
sexy. That's the other thing.
No.
My team is just not sexy, and that's probably a good thing. But I went about it differently this year. I think T. Higgins could be interesting this year, but it's a weird year for fantasy, man. You really got to go heavy on those running backs early, or you're not going to have any options late. And then the receivers are, a dime a dozen once you get down to it. But this is a really fun year for fantasy. There's a lot of change. Like those all three Texans receivers should be interesting. I think that having a guy like Isaiah Pacheco could really pay off because we're all talking about how Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey are good, but Pacheco's a really good young running back who's only going to get better.
Yep, I completely agree. I think Pacheco could be a guy who we don't even know what his ceiling is yet on this type of team. I think he could do some insane things, especially near in the red zone. Everyone's gonna be playing pass defense. They're gonna have four at the line. They're gonna be in zone. Just hand it right off to Pacheco. And not only that, he's an unbelievable pass catcher.
He really is.
I am also very high on Pacheco. I kept Pacheco instead of Kamara and instead of Rashad White. This is what I'm saying, Ethan. I went 7-7 last year, and I had I completely gate kept running backs last year. I had
you really did
5 of the top 25 running backs in the league last year.
Crazy.
And I could only find a way to win 7 games. And a lot of that's because I am not a huge fan of going early on quarterbacks. As you see, I took Kyler Murray on the bench as my strategy this year. I also have Jaden Daniels on the bench, which could very well turn in the starter week 3, in my opinion. I really think Jaden Daniels.
I mean, you got taller Kyler Murray, really.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we'll see. I agree. It's an interesting fantasy year, especially running back wise. But I think there are some better games to play instead of fantasy. I'm much higher, and I'm going to be joining one tomorrow probably with fantasy and gambling correspondent Matt Stiers, a Survivor League, as well as a Pick'em League. So we'll see. I think the Survivor League should be a lot of fun. I'd love to go through picks on the pod as well.
Of course.
I think we're going to do a few different entries, but I'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah, I like it. Davis, week 1 of college football's in the books. NFL week 1 is approaching. I feel like we got through so much in under 40 minutes today, and I feel like we could go on further, but just want to leave this for the people to breathe. We need to digest this. It's a lot of football. One thing I think I'm going to do a really good job of this year, Davis, is enjoying and being present of football. I think it's really hard to do that. I mean, being present in our lives in general, 365 is tough, but football is most important.
Not to get deep or anything.
Yeah, not to get super deep, but actually, let's get deep. When it's week 17, week 18 in the NFL season, it breaks my heart because I know it's almost gone. And we haven't even started week 1 yet. So let's take that in and enjoy it. The Eagles could win the Super Bowl this year. Like, your favorite team, insert team here, could win a national championship maybe. Like, let's be optimistic,
Yep. I'm excited. I think it's going to be an unreal football year. We've already gotten a taste of what college football is going to look like this year. And oh man, it pumps me up that this time 4 months ago, I couldn't wait for Memorial Day baseball. And now I'm sitting here saying, what was I thinking? The weekend of September 7th is the weekend I rise from the dead and watch football and sit on the couch the entire weekend. I can't wait for it, especially the Friday night game. So now we have football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Ethan, I cannot wait. There's going to be a lot of football on this season.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to be at a wedding, but football is king. I'll find a way, and everyone else will find a way because it's football season. We love you all. Subscribe, like, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the above. Help us out. Share a friend, be a friend, all that stuff that other people say that I copy every single episode. We love you. Deuces.